Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the MLN Podcast. I'm your host, Sid. The World Series has already had a lot of action, and the Phillies homestand has yet to kick off after the Astros and the Phillies split games 1 and 2 in H-Town. Game 1 featured a thrilling, and amazing come from behind victory for the Fightins, overcoming a 5-0 deficit to win 6-5 in extra innings. JT Realmuto actually became the first catcher to hit an extra innings home run in the Fall Classic since Carlton Fisk hit his famous walk-off shot in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series. Almost 50 years it has been since a catcher hit an extra innings home run, and it was amazing. I remember watching Game 1, I was at work, and it was absolutely phenomenal seeing the Phillies win Game 1, their first World Series their first win for a World Series game since 2009 in over 13 years. It's absolutely phenomenal to see that. And Game 2 featured a phenomenal pitching performance from Framber Valdez. He pitched yet another gem, earned yet another quality start. After he allowed only one run in 7+ innings of a strong performance, he struck out 9 Phillies batters. Zach Wheeler kind of had a rough game. He allowed a couple of runs, and the Astros won 5-2 to split the homestand, and now we're headed back to Citizens Bank Park. Now that the series is all knotted up, what is there to expect in Games 3, 4, and 5? Well, firstly, Game 3 has been postponed to 8:03 p.m. on November 1st. It was supposed to be played on Halloween at 8:03 p.m., but because of rain, it was postponed to the next day. And there's been actually a lot of rain showers this postseason, and there were a couple of times that we had game delays in the division series between the Yankees and the Guardians, and it was actually raining a couple of times, I believe, in the San Diego LA Dodgers series in Games 3 and 4, and it was actually raining during the division series between the Braves and the Phillies and the championship series. I remember it raining right before the Phillies actually clinched the National League pennant at home in Citizens Bank Park, but we'll see how this affects the players, how the extra day of rest affects both teams' abilities to go in and win. And this could be good news or this could be bad news for the pitchers. They have more time to prepare, but the extra day could make them slightly more rusty because they were expecting to pitch on Halloween instead of on the 1st of November. But we will see. Now, in terms of who's pitching, Ranger Suarez will be called upon to start for the Phillies, while Lance McCullers gets the assignment for the Astros. Now, Ranger Suarez actually got the save in the clinching game of the NLCS. He got the final few outs, and obviously Citizens Bank Park erupted into roars and cheers as they celebrated their first NL pennant since 2009. And unfortunately, this doesn't allow him to qualify for any leads, some stat leads for the team or for to be on the leaderboards for pitching. But we'll see how he does, how he fares in his first start in the postseason. He had a pretty okay regular season, 10-7 with a 3.65 ERA. So we'll see if he can get crafty against the red-hot Astros bats, especially after what they did in Game 2. Now, moving over to Lance McCullers. Lance McCullers started a game against the Yankees, in the ALCS, and he pitched a total of 11 innings, and a lot of those actually came in relief during the 18-inning marathon in Game 3 against the Seattle Mariners. And he owns a 2.45 ERA, striking out 13 batters and allowing only 10 hits and only 3 walks. He's definitely going to be a tough opponent for the Phillies, but the Phillies will definitely bounce back after a rough game against Valdez last time out. And the Phillies just absolutely feast, and I mean feast, off of the energy that their fans give them over in Citizens Bank Park. I mean, CBP just gets incredibly loud. Their 40,000 plus loyal fans just come on and cheer. I remember when Harper hit the clinching home run, the 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th, and I remember, even though it was on TV and the volume was somewhat low, it was incredibly loud. I could just feel the energy, and being a Red Sox fan, going to Fenway Park, I could almost predict the energy because Citizens Bank Park just gets so loud, so energetic when all that stuff happens. Now, it'll be exciting to hear them roar loudly at every single Astros out and every Phillies run scored and every single time the Phillies do something big. And this is just insane. This postseason has been absolutely ridiculous, and this World Series already has a lot of action. And look for the batters on both sides to pick it up, especially the Phillies. The Phillies have been kind of struggling in game 2. The Astros absolutely piled on runs, especially that Alex Bregman 2-run shot into left center field. That was phenomenal. I mean, Alex Bregman's absolutely back. He was injured last year, and the first half of this year wasn't exactly kind to him, but the second half of this year, oh my goodness, was he good. He's still an elite third baseman. He's proved why he's still a top 5, maybe even a top 3 third baseman in the league. And this postseason, he's just been killing it. The division series, the championship series, so far the World Series, you name it. He already has a home run in the World Series. He has the most home runs in the postseason for any third baseman all time. And it's just insane seeing Alex Bregman perform. Now, I would like to see something more out of the other Astros hitters like Yordan Alvarez. Kyle Tucker's doing his job. I would like to see Aledmys Diaz picking up a little bit, even though he hasn't started much. Chas McCormick, Jeremy Pena's been doing pretty solid. Yuli Gurriel has to start to pick it up. He's a key player over at first base. Their catching staff has to pick it up. Generally speaking, the Astros have a lot of slack to catch up, but Bregman and Altuve have absolutely been killing it in the playoffs. Kyle Tucker had a really, really good Game 1 of the World Series, hitting 2 jacks. I mean, he owned Game 1, as Joe Davis said it. And as for the Phillies, I mean, pretty much everybody has to pick it up after that sloppy performance in Game 2. Bryce Harper had a solid game. Kyle Schwarber is doing all right. But, I mean, again, the Phillies are absolutely ridiculous at home. They haven't lost a single game at home this postseason. The Astros obviously lost their first postseason game at home in Game 1 of the World Series. Up until then, they haven't lost a single game at home this postseason, and unfortunately for them, they tried to go 11-0 in the playoffs, but they couldn't because the Phillies put a damper on it. We'll see how the Phillies do, and this homestand will absolutely be incredible to see. I'm here for it. Regardless of whether you're a Phillies fan, you're an Astros fan, you're a Yankees fan, you're a fan of whatever, you have to give them and their fans credit. The Fanatics, absolutely ridiculous fans. You got to give them credit for just showing up and giving the Phillies they're basically a 10th man out there. A lot of fans say it, it's basically like the 10th man. There's an extra player on that field to help the Phillies, and that energy's just been so good. Their energy just transcends any other group of fans I've ever seen, especially in the playoffs. It's just incredibly, incredibly electric, and they've always had some of the best fans in baseball, and they've shown that especially in this postseason. I mean, they've outscored their opponents by an incredible amount. They've outscored them 35-14 in their homestands. They've outscored them by 21 runs in all of their home games this playoffs. Think about that, 35-14. That is absolutely insane. We'll see how they do against the Astros again. The Astros bats are absolutely, absolutely hot, and we'll see if the Phillies can continue this. And this is a dream run in the making, and we'll see if the Astros or the Phillies will become the champions in Citizens Bank Park. We'll see if it can be clinched in CBP in Philly. And if the Phillies actually clinch Game 5 at home, they'll become the first team since the 2013 Red Sox to win the World Series on home turf. The Dodgers technically did this, but they weren't even in LA, and they won Game 6 at home, but it was a neutral site with a couple of thousand fans. This is the real deal. They could very well win a World Series in Citizens Bank Park in front of 40,000 plus fans, and it's absolutely insane. The last World Series they won was actually Game 5, and they beat the Tampa Bay Rays, and they won on home turf, and it was absolutely insane. And this World Series has been insane simply because of another cool fact. It is just the 7th World Series to ever be played in November, and the latest that the World Series has ever gotten was in 2001, and the Diamondbacks ended up clinching Game 7 in Bank One Ballpark on November 4th, and we obviously know what happened because of the September 11th attacks. It was absolutely tragic what happened, and since 2001, 2009, 2010, 15, 16, 17, and 21 were played in November, and this actually marks the 3rd time during which the World Series was postponed or altered due to time, something happening. If you go way back, the 1918 World Series was moved to early September because of World War I and the work or fight order issued by the government at the time. Like I said, the 2001 World Series was moved back due to the September 11th attacks, And that was actually the first World Series to ever be played in November. And Derek Jeter took the first ever at bat in November when he walked off the Diamondbacks on midnight after Halloween turned into November 1st. And this year was actually postponed due to the lockout. Originally, it should have finished in the last few days of October, but because of the lockout, because it was pushed back, they had to move it to November. And honestly, I'm excited to see this homestand. I am a Red Sox fan, so naturally I hate the Astros, but I mean, I can't wait to see what both teams have to offer in CBP. We'll see if the Phillies can clinch at home. We'll see if the Astros can clinch on the road. We'll see if it has to go back to Houston for potential Game 6 and Game 7. And, I mean, it's just incredible. Like, this postseason has transcended any other postseason that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there's just so many upsets, so much action, and I absolutely love it. I mean, postseason baseball is, like, one of the best postseasons, like, in all of sports, and I absolutely love it. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing and make sure that you follow me on IG and on TikTok at Major League Nerd. This will go on my YouTube channel actually, so check out my YouTube channel. That's also Major League Nerd. And just be sure to follow me on my social media just so you guys can get updates and all the coolest, information on anything happening in the baseball world. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a great day. Peace out.